Okay. Well, similar to the way you use styles in Word to build an auto-generated table of contents, you use something called captions to build an auto-generated list of illustrations. In this video, we will take a look at how to do exactly that. The first thing that you will want to do, however, is to create a space for your list of illustrations in your front matter. And what you will need to do is to make a first level heading for the list of illustrations in your front matter somewhere. And so you want to make sure you have that so that it will show up on the table of contents. So we have a heading 1. And usually people will use one of these labels, either figures, tables, or charts, which are the standard ones that Word allows you to utilize to label your illustrations. But you can also create your own. The other option that you have, which some students and writers also utilize, is to actually create multiple sections in the list of illustrations and have lists of figures, lists of tables, and lists of charts all in one. And that is perfectly acceptable as well. Okay, so let's get started. Again, what we want to do, like with inserting the table of contents, is to open up the References toolbar. And here we find our old friend, the table of contents, over on the left-hand side. And right in the middle here, we see this Captions toolbar. And inside the captions box here, you see an Insert Caption button and Insert Table of Figures, which basically is what we will use to insert a list of illustrations. So it is just termed Table of Figures here, but it is, for all intents and purposes, a list of illustrations. So let's go down through our document and find our first illustration. Okay, so we have a chart here. So what we want to do is click on our illustration. So we have the whole thing, and once we click on the chart, we want to click on Insert Caption, and to create a multiple section list of illustrations that has charts, figures, and tables. So right here we have the caption, which you'll use to identify the particular visual or illustration. Here they have what it is, so you can label it either equation, figure, and table, but you can also include a new label, and so we could add, for instance, chart here. And if I press OK, see, chart comes up. So we will label this chart, and then we can decide where we want to put the caption. So in this case, we're going to put it below. And by the way, this will automatically create the space where the label will go. And it will automatically put in a number. So I'm going to put a colon after it, and it'll automatically compensate for this. And I'll put a title here. Now, you do not need to put a title here if you do not want to. You can just have them plainly chart 1, chart 2, chart 3. I think it's more informative to have the title in there. And do you see how that puts it in there? Many people also, if they get information, they use this opportunity. See how this is kind of like a text box? They use this opportunity to also put any kind of citation information, especially if it's something where they're not going to have citation information about a visual posted anywhere else in the document. This is a good place to put that. The one thing that you need to remember if you decide to do that, however, is if you do have a list of illustrations, you will want to decide whether you want to keep that documentation in the list of illustrations, which might be a good option, or if you want to place that information somewhere else in addition to where it appears in the text itself, or if you want to delete it from the list of illustrations. If you want to delete it from the list of illustrations and leave the title there, that option is okay, and you can, as we'll see, just update the page numbers after you auto-generate the list of illustrations. You can delete the documentation information, and you can utilize that update page numbers only function in Word so that you can modify the entries that Word places in the list of illustrations. And you also notice that if you want to, you can also pull this down and make this as big or as small as you want. Space, and see how that kind of looks a little bit messy there. I can pull that over so that I can keep my spacing square there so it doesn't look like there's something not correct with the layout. Okay. And that's what we need there. So now we go to the next. We have here. So we click on it, and just like the other one, this is a... Oh, okay, so it's an image from a website, it looks like. Okay. So we'll do... See how if that was a chart, we would have a chart right away. Actually, I want to show you something, so let me cancel out of this one. I'm going to show you something here so that you can see how the numbering works. Okay, so I'm going to go to this second image here, insert a caption in that. I'm going to say that this is a figure. So I'll call this figure 1, and I'll put sidebar image, and I'll put Chapman 2011 there. And actually, this particular report, the person has cited these on the reference page, so that actually takes care of, that's how this person deals with documentation. But there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. And they could actually have put those things in the variety of ways that we mentioned earlier. And I'm going to scoot this one down a little bit because there's some shading that the person has put in here. There, like that. Okay. So there's our second one. Okay, and this is what I wanted to show you. So you see how that has figure 1 here? If I go into here, I'm just going to erase this whole thing, by the way. So we'll just call that drop down. Actually, let's find out who that is. Down. Oh, it has no date and it doesn't have a sandbox. Okay, so we're going to click on that. We're going to hit insert caption. We have figure, and do you see what comes up here? It says figure 1, and I'll show you what that means. So I'll put figure 1, and I'll put did I call that last one drop down menu? Drop down. I'll put drop down menu image, and then I'll put okay. Same thing. I'll put it below the image. I'm gonna scoot that down. There we go. Oh, I wonder why that's indenting that. I'll have to. There we go. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. So this says figure 1, and now this one automatically changed to figure 2. And that is the wonderful thing about this, and it's the same exact thing that makes the table of contents so wonderful in Word. This is kind of like the parallel in the captioning in Word, that you do not have to go in and physically change the order of all the figures or the charts, and it keeps track of each individual one and all the numbering. And so you don't have to do all that stuff. It does it for you. And so wherever you insert visuals in here, it keeps track of what the numbering is, and it will keep everything in order for you. It's a very, very nice feature. Okay, so that should give you enough to get started on placing captions under your visuals in Word. One disclaimer that I would make would be when you place captions under tables in Word, Word sometimes gets finicky, and the actual placement of the captions around the tables, whether you want the caption under it or beside it or on top of it, tends to be somewhat difficult. The other thing that sometimes happens is that when you revise your document, the captions you place along tables and sometimes even graphs or charts in Word, although not that often, they usually hold pretty well, tend to separate from the tables. And so just keep an eye on them when you insert them in your documents and put a caption underneath them, especially when you revise and do that last minute editing. Double check those to make sure that all the captions are in the proper place, and also when you reopen your document. If you do that, you should be fine, but they do tend to move, so better safe than sorry on that. Regardless, I think you're set to go with this, and so in the next video we'll take a look on how to use all this to actually go ahead and create a list of illustrations.